Hey everybody, how is it going? Welcome. This is the RambleCast. This is also December 6th. They make one of these. It's in 2023. Um, I'm Cody Toombs. I host this show. And we've got a Corbin Davenport with us.
Hello.
Diablo, how are you doing? Good to see you here.
Hello.
Um, yeah, so anyway, it's been a week. There's been things that have happened. It's actually been kind of a weirdly busy news week. I'm surprised by it. I'm so used to starting the show and going, well, not a lot happened, or
Yeah.
either not a lot happened or one company did a big thing and we talked about that. This is kind of the week where, no, lots of things happened. Just for real, lots of things happened. Um, so
Yes. We narrowly avoided just talking about Marvel movies again and how I like the new Godzilla movie.
it's funny that you say that, seeing as our first topic is going to be about Marvel movies and, well, not the Godzilla movie, though. Ed, what'd you think of it? we'll just
It was really good.
sidetrack to that. What'd you
It was
think?
it was good. It was good. Big monster. Most of it looked pretty cool. It had an actual story. No,
Huh.
no complaints.
Uh, hey Austin, how's it going? Um, okay. I I haven't watched a Godzilla movie since uh I don't think I ever, I could be wrong, but I don't think I ever watched the one with Bryan Cranston. Oh wait, maybe I
That's
did.
the only that's the only one I've watched besides this one. And it was so long ago I could not tell you a single thing about it. Except I'm sure that it has Godzilla in it and Bryan Cranston. I remember both of those things.
Um, huh. I That's interesting. Okay, so um the more I think about it, the more I think I did see that one because I remember Bryan Cranston. It Correct me if I'm wrong. He's only in it for like 15 minutes or something in the beginning.
I could not tell you. Don't know.
Okay, well, I might be wrong on that. But if
Austin said Shin Godzilla is the best Godzilla. I will watch that next. I've been told to watch that. It is pirated on my iPad right now. I tried to be a good boy and rented it from YouTube, um, but I accidentally rented the English dubbed version, which was I normally don't care, but it was really weird. Like they redid the voices, but most of the rest of the audio was quiet. It was really weird, so I didn't want to watch that. And they don't let you swap it, so I pirated it instead. So I'll
makes
watch that
sense.
soon. Anyway, um, Disney Plus.
Uh yeah, hold on. Diablo, yeah. I don't know how I fixed that last week, but I did have it fixed partially last week.
At
Um
least I'm not muted this time. That's an improvement.
yeah, I remembered to fix that specifically. Oh wait, I can
This time I'm not being censored by the liberal media.
yes. Okay. So that kind of fixes it. I hid or I minimized my window, so I'm now just a little gray block in the corner. So that kind of fixes it. Um yeah, okay. So just to quickly note, the Godzilla I actually remember better is the one I watched from 1998. And it's weird to even say I remember this because honestly, I did not remember that Matthew Broderick was the star of that one. The thing I remember most is the really dumb ending, and that the song from it was Puff Daddy and Jimmy Page doing "Come with Me Now" or "Come with Me." Yeah, "Come with Me." Um, Which, seeing as the song was the most memorable thing from that movie, not saying a lot of good things about it. Anyway, yes, so Disney Plus has done things. I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So a while back, Disney said that they were going to, the word everyone used, I think including Disney, was merged. I don't think that's really the right word here. That they were going to merge Disney Plus and Hulu. Because I don't know if it's fully complete yet, but I know recently they got Comcast to sell their stake in Hulu to Disney. So now Disney owns fully all of Hulu. It used to be Disney, Comcast, Universal. I don't know if Warner had a piece. I think it was someone else was in there. It might have been Warner, but gradually everyone sort of okay, never mind. But basically everyone sort of like diverged from that and launched their own services. So now Disney is left with the entirety of Hulu on its own. So now the merged version is live, and basically what that means is that if you have Disney Plus and Hulu, like if you're paying for both of them in some form, you can now see everything from Hulu in the Disney Plus app and website. So this is basically what everyone outside of the United States is already used to, because Hulu is only in the US, and everywhere else Disney has that under just like their like Stars brand. I think they might have something else for a couple other countries, but this is mostly how it works everywhere else. So it's not merged because Hulu is still like a separate thing that you're paying for. It's just that if you have both and they're on the same email and connected and stuff, you get all the Hulu stuff in the Disney Plus app. So you, in theory, don't need the Hulu app necessarily, which is good, because in my experience, the Disney Plus app and website works a lot better than Hulu. Hulu has always been very slow and laggy on basically everything I have used. I'm fine with it right now on my TV because I'm using my Xbox Series X to stream stuff, so it has enough power to handle Hulu, just barely. But yeah, you still need both things. So it's not like, oh, if you have Disney Plus, you get a freebie. No, they're gonna make you keep paying for it. And also, you still need the Hulu app for like the live TV stuff. None of that is in the Disney Plus app. It's still not really clear what the like long-term goal here is, if this is the final stage of this or not. If because who owns Max? That's Warner.
Mm-hmm.
What Warner has done is they were sort of going through this with their own company, because they had HBO Max, which is now just Max, and they had Discovery Plus, which was from the Discovery part. And so they sort of merged both of those as Max, but also Discovery Plus is still a separate thing. If you only want that, you can just pay for that. So I don't know if Disney would do something like, I mean, this is kind of like in that direction, but less connected.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to see it all in the Disney Plus app, because again, it's always worked better for me. It's still a little bit of a mess. This is better. I wasn't expecting like all of the like third-party content in Hulu to be in there too, but it is. I'm sorry, the third-party content in Hulu on Disney Plus to be there. I thought it would just be like the Hulu stuff, but it's not.
It's hilarious to have to say it that way. The third-party content in Hulu and Disney Plus.
This is the worst timeline. We really We really fucked up. Let's just go back to cable TV. That seemed easier.
No, well, I mean, we are in the worst timeline, but just just to be clear, the worst timeline includes uh subscribing to all kinds of different streaming services through Amazon so that you can watch things through that terrible player. That's the
That's
actual worst. I mean, the weird
yeah.
Inception level things that are going on with Disney Plus, yeah, that sucks too. But that's just weird to say. It may actually, the experience doesn't have to be bad. Um, the experience with Amazon is just actually terrible.
Yeah. I know my personal gripe for years. I don't know if this is still an issue, but my biggest gripe with Hulu for years was that well, way back when the TV app was horrendous, and then they redid that as like a web app or whatever, and it's like okay, now it's just really slow. My other gripe was that it never supported picture in picture on Android. So like anytime I'm like quickly checking email or something, yeah, I get kicked out of the of whatever I'm watching and have to go back to the app and wait for it to buffer again. That was always annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so man, Hulu was just terrible. Um, Not to say Amazon's is good, just Hulu's is terrible. Um, yeah, so uh, in a way, I think that this is probably. I want to predict that this is the next step towards them just ultimately killing Hulu as a fully separate thing. I would like to think that their end run here is to just straight up say, look, we're going to have one app. If you pay for Hulu stuff, fine. You can have Hulu stuff. If you want to pay for Disney Plus, you can have Disney Plus. If you want both, we got a package that just does that and it's cheaper than the two separate. That would be I think the ideal outcome. Because I suppose there are probably people out there who don't want Hulu or don't want Disney Plus, though I'm kind of unclear about how that would end up working.
Yeah, because
I mean, I
like
get the concept. It seems really weird for them to even have two brands that you could theoretically pay for separately.
yeah, and it's definitely a lot more like separate TV channel packages than it is like what Warner did with, Discovery Plus and stuff. Because Discovery Plus was much smaller in scale and fewer people cared about it, if we're being honest
A
here.
lot fewer, yes.
Same thing is ongoing with Paramount, because Paramount has Paramount Plus, and then they also have Cinemax is a separate thing, or not Cinemax. Whatever else they have. Like Disney's not the only one with like a couple different media umbrellas that they're like trying to figure out how to merge together. But it seems like in all those other cases, like all of them are very small and niche. So it kind of just works out better to merge it into the bigger thing. But Disney does have like two big things, which isn't. But again, they don't have to. They could put it all in the same thing. But
Yeah.
there's money. There's money in having two big things because you can charge people twice. So.
And to be fair, it's understandable to say maybe you don't want to bundle it all together, because the price you'd have to charge would be maybe it wouldn't be outlandish, but it would be high enough that people would look at it and go, yeah, I can just do without this entirely.
Yeah, Hulu without ads now is insane. I think it's like 18 a month or something. And Disney Plus has also been going up, so that would be part of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I am on a very, very legacy plan where I get Hulu with ads for a year for $100, and then Disney Plus without ads is like $2 more a month. And I use both of those somewhat often, and my family uses both of them a lot, so that's fine. Now, if they start cracking down on password sharing, there might be less of a motivation for me to continue paying for this service. But
Oh, this is the precursor to Corbin sailing the friendly seas.
I'm not afraid to do so. I just would like it if my stuff is in an app I pay for in the very nice 4K HDR, all that fun stuff that pirated copies still are not very good at. Some stuff I can watch in the very compressed MP4 that's been floating around on the internet since 2008. But anyway, so yeah, that's Disney Plus. We'll see what happens there. This definitely feels like part one of a plan that like no one has really figured out, probably including Bob Iger. I think he's too worried about the rest of Disney falling apart to like necessarily have a master plan here. But
Yeah. Well, there's just so much drama going on around Disney, and only about half of it is Disney's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, somehow I honestly like if this show was more inclined to go political, we could just keep going on the topic of Disney for the next hour. But hey, it is what it is.
I can. I did see the Marvels in theaters, so.
Hey, you ever so slightly not saved it. You actually technically failed, but you gave it a slight nudge towards being almost not its worst performing movie ever.
Right. I didn't buy tickets for all of my friends and family. That was my problem.
Yes. and you didn't go watch it like 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was not a good movie.
Oh, was it not?
No. Shocking.
Oh, okay.
I know, shocking.
I mean, I didn't know what to expect with that one.
I was going in with like, I'm gonna give this a try. I know everyone likes to poo-poo on Captain Marvel because like 4 years ago she said that Marvel fans are annoying sometimes, and they never forgave her for that. So I did go and see it. Not good. It was like very forgettable movie. I did like who they picked for Miss Marvel. I had not seen that Disney Plus show because I don't care.
Yeah, good.
But they picked a very good person for that. She was great. Brie Larson was pretty good. She a little bit all over the place in that one, but that's fine.
To be fair, she was a little bit all over the place in Captain Marvel.
Yeah, it's just again more like dog shit writing. Just like don't really know what's happening. I forgot the name of the main villain like as soon as I walked out of the theater. So normal Marvel things.
I was gonna say, isn't that pretty much how almost every Marvel villain goes?
That's how almost all of them go. Yeah.
Short of Ultron and Thanos, like honestly, it's kind of hard to point to too many of the villains that are really, really truly memorable. I guess technically Loki too.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just really bad writing. It visually looked horrible. Like one of the worst. Like there were the one part where I was like, what are we doing here, guys? There's a part near the end of the movie where they're like getting off of a spaceship that landed next to New York City, and it's like everyone in this is on a green screen, and in my mind I'm just like thinking back to the Avengers where Marvel somehow managed to put people next to New York City. And I was like, oh wow, that looked okay, and this looks real bad.
It's weird how 10 years later or whatever it is, where movies are actually looking worse.
Like it's fine when you want to do the green screen for like the stuff in space or whatever that doesn't make any sense, but like guys, New York's right there. You can get a plane. I know you guys can.
But the tax write-offs, Corbin. The tax write-offs.
It's true. New York City is not in a green screen in Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, and okay, I know these movies are in production for a long time and everything, but some part of me thinks that somebody had to have looked at Ant-Man Quantumania and thought, okay, this just looks bad. We need to not make this mistake with any other movies. If any other movie is going to look at all like this, pull it, reshoot, figure it out. And evidently, they did not do that.
Well, supposedly this went through a lot. I don't know if it went through reshoots, but this went through a lot of editing, apparently. I don't know if it made it better or not. Again.
Well, the last movie that was really famous for going through editing was Suicide Squad. So the first one. So, you know.
That was so great, that movie.
Yeah.
I went and saw it with my friend when it came out. We were laughing almost the entire time of the movie. I think we probably annoyed other people in the theater. I don't care. I have not seen it since. I've forgotten almost everything about it. Perfect movie experience.
It's funny because
I only remember Will Smith, and I think there was a shark, I want to say.
Wait,
and that's it.
Was the shark in the first one?
I feel like he was, but I'm not sure.
I remember him in the second one. I feel like I don't remember him for the first. Or maybe he was just a quick cameo in the first. Yeah. I don't know. It's been a while for me too.
David said, new podcast idea, Corbin Talks Movies. Well, I have good news for you. A new Tech Tales just dropped today. I finally finished editing it. It is we talk about the first Tron movie for over an hour. It is like 20 minutes shorter than the actual movie. It's great. and eventually I will do Tron Legacy as well. That will absolutely be longer than the movie. And it will be completely insufferable. So I'll put, there's the link to Tech Tales. I need to redo that website though for Tech Tales. You could take the Twitter button off and maybe the Reddit too.
Austin's right. If the more you talk about any movies with a deep fandom, your hate mail's just going to keep increasing.
That's fine.
And I think that's absolutely what you should do. You'll get so much more engagement. Just force everybody to contact you through social media, and watch as you quickly rise to the top.
I just end every post on Mastodon with Captain Marvel was actually pretty good, guys. And that's it.
Oh boy.
That might be my most controversial Marvel take.
Well, that or when you said that Ultron should have won.
Did I say that?
I don't know.
I don't recall. Okay.
But if you said it, it would have
sure.
worked.
Yeah.
Though, having said that,
can't...
seriously, Ultron should have won.
Ultron was cool.
Ultron was very cool. I mean, come on. He had Raymond Reddington's voice. Like, how do you go wrong with that?
Yeah, perfect voice casting for that.
James Spader just...
Yeah. I love James Spader, easily like top 10 actor voices for sure.
Oh God, yes. I dare say, once Sean Connery passed away, like the next step up was pretty much Spader. Like he took over as the king of voices. Anyway,
so yeah, that Tech Tales is up, and then also I might write a Spacebar article about the games I played this year. I'm still, if I can get enough words that are coherent, I'll write it, but we'll see.
Interesting.
It's been a long month. I don't know if I have that in me.
It's been a long month. December 6th.
Austin made a meme. Thank you. Oh, it's true. I haven't written about crypto recently. That's probably why I stopped getting that hate mail. Definitely was for a while. I occasionally get weirdos still responding to my article about Brave browser because it now shows up pretty prominently if you do a Google search for Brave browser. I got an email from Google for like the search performance, and I think it's like number 5 or something if you ask like who made Brave browser and stuff like that. So I know Cody knows this, but I think it was a couple days ago, I got an email that someone reported a comment on my article about Brave browser, and it was someone reporting my own comment where I said, "Sorry guys, I have to close the comments because all the right-wing weirdos found this." That was funny. So it just reported myself to the principal, which is me. So
yes. Oh, I love it. Yeah. And
it's very funny.
And they'll I mean, we saw this at AP. Anytime something got even remotely political in the way that they don't like, oh boy. They would go on sprees of reporting anyone and everyone that was taking the side they don't like, and oh yeah. Yeah, they would just report bomb everyone in the comments. And then they would when they got like banned or when comments got closed, they'd go to other people's articles and start causing trouble there. Yeah. Real winners. Lovely group of people. Anyway, so shall we talk about meta? Since we've already talked about right-wing weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that doesn't sound like they're connected. It's just that they are. But no, anyway. So, kind of a weird one, but Meta has decided that the Quest should no longer show phone notifications. So, yeah, this is a thing for a while. Whenever you're wearing the Meta Quest, you could, as long as it's paired to your phone and you've got the app installed, then it can mirror notifications over to your Quest and you can see them without actually taking off the headset or using the pass-through mode. Anyway, for reasons that are completely undisclosed, they are making a change to this with the V60 update that just came out, or is that coming out? I don't actually know. They're going to simply remove notifications. Plain and simple. Before I get into my conspiratorial theory on this, what say you?
So I tried it. It's in the other room, but I do have a Meta Quest 2 now. So I did try the phone notifications thing. It uses, at least on iPhone, it uses Bluetooth. So it's the same thing that like smartwatches that are not Apple Watch or the Windows Phone Link thing uses on iPhone. So actually worked pretty well. Like I think I was even sending, I don't know if I was getting icons. I think I was getting icons for like the notifications too. So that was nice. But I did eventually turn it off because it seemed like it didn't unpair from my phone when the headset was off. So it's just like always a Bluetooth connection running, which felt weird. So I didn't really want to use it anymore.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so I know
there was also the potential privacy thing where maybe Meta's reading my notifications. I feel like they wouldn't do that just because it's too easy. And also because, again, this is entirely Bluetooth. So it's not even like, oh, your notifications are being sent to the cloud so that they can go back to the headset. It was entirely peer-to-peer.
Yeah, I mean, it's Facebook. They literally used to they used to use a security exploit just so they could read contact databases without permission. So I wouldn't put anything past them. But in this particular instance, I don't know. So yeah, they might be doing this to avoid some future concern over security and privacy. My hunch, the hunch that I've had this whole time, and if Curvy were listening to the stream right now, would probably high five me over this, but I genuinely think the excuse for this is player retention. And very real player retention. I have a sneaking suspicion that they probably tested and realized that whenever people get notifications, there's probably some high percentage, like, I'm just going to throw out a number. I'd bet like at least a quarter, if not a half of people get the notification and are like, okay, I have to stop using it now. And they realize that if they just took away those notifications, sure, some people hear their notifications, they'll then stop using it, like they'll have to take off the headset or use pass-through mode to figure out what happened. But I bet the numbers are lower, or they assume that they're going to be lower, and in that time they're like, you know what, we can just keep people in VR longer if we just don't let them know. It's easier if we just keep it hidden. And yeah, I maybe I'm way off, but have a feeling that's probably the real reason for this.
I think there is at least a 20% chance that is true. I'll put, those are my odds. That seems almost reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, I wish it wasn't. I wish I wasn't predicting that they're just trying to be lazily awful. But it's the only thing that really tracks to me that is a benefit to them. Everything else, it kind of just feels like, well, yeah, maybe they're doing it as a precaution. Maybe they're doing it for this reason or that reason. But I can plainly come to a belief of, oh, they just need it for player retention, because the amount of people who are sticking with VR is not great. Like, the statistics show people buy VR headsets, they don't keep using them for super long. So yeah, I don't have the greatest faith in that. Though in the coming years, I think that'll change. Just I don't think Meta's done a good job of really getting people to stay. Not the way they've been doing it, at least.
Yeah.
Anyway, so speaking of notifications,
also,
we'll
say, I look forward to the VR RambleCast. We'll have to have RambleCast in the metaverse.
Oh, never gonna happen.
I think that would be very funny.
Should that happen? It's not going to happen, but should it happen?
I mean, it might be funny once.
Yeah.
I also think it'd be funny for me to do a Tech Tales in the metaverse. That'd be funny. That would be the first Tech Tales that has like a video component.
Oh, have you not put video clips into any of your Tech Tales?
No.
Oh, I thought you did with one of them. Okay.
Too much work. I'd have to be editing it in a video editor, and I'm not there. Now I'm using Logic, which is so nice, but not for that.
Well, didn't you try doing it in Final Cut one time?
Yeah, I messed around with it. It's not ideal for that.
Well, no, it's definitely not ideal. Though it's not bad. Like Final Cut it would work.
For what I needed, it was unusable. Because if it was like everyone had a video recording attached, maybe it was just the way it handles audio tracks and how it will fill empty gaps between each track.
Right.
It's like I can't remove like part of someone's audio where they're coughing or whatever, and then it's still like perfectly synced up. Again, like if everyone had like a video track, then maybe I could do like the multi-camera stuff for that, but it's not worth it. I don't care. The YouTube people just need to listen to the audio version. I don't really want to put in more work for them.
If what you're complaining about is what I think you're complaining about, I actually know how to fix that, but it probably doesn't matter. You just need to link the tracks together, and then when you cut across them, it just cuts everything.
Yeah, I think I tried that. I don't know. I mean, I'll probably play around with it again, like at some point, because it would be nice to have, at least when I'm like talking about a clip, to have the clip in the YouTube version. Stuff like that would be nice. Tech Tales would never be a like face talking thing, because the amount of cuts would make it so eerie.
Actually, there's this, not that this is important, but there's a neat trick to video editing where you can work around that. In fact, it even looks good when you do it right. But I will say that if you do go back to trying to use a video editor at all for that, and you've heard me say this, DaVinci Resolve. Mm-hmm. So good. Anyway, plus with dialogue editing, oh my god, that actually would be great for podcasts.
I was shilling DaVinci Resolve to my younger brother because he was like, Corbin, can I get a good video editor, please? And he kept bugging me to help him pirate Premiere, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Just download this free one. Problem solved.
And yeah, he'll be so much happier not using Premiere. I mean, nobody has enough time in the world to deal with software crashing that much.
Yeah.
I love how this stream so far has been like 10 minutes on topic and almost 40 minutes off topic.
This is what the people come here for. If they wanted concise information, they can just read.
Yeah. At this point, I could have just scrolled these articles and
like, what are you doing here? That's not what they come here for.
Yes. They come here for brilliant insights.
They come here for me to complain and occasionally talk about movies. And you to talk about movies for far longer. Yes, I'm here for self-promotion. The audience of like the 4 people watching this is huge. I can't let this opportunity go to waste.
Exactly.
There may only be 4 people here, but if you can get all in the click the link, that's 100% click-through rate, baby. That's the gold standard. Yeah, much better than what I'm getting through Google Discover, which is like 6%.
Google Discover, it says it all.
I'm definitely the best thing on Google Discover.
Okay.
At least based on what's in my Discover feed, it gives me all of the really junk websites.
Oh yeah, no, it's Google Discover. I'm not going to say that it is worthless to me. That would be unfair, but it certainly produces a lot of real iffy suggestions.
Yeah, I know they're like basically the same thing. I do check the Google News specifically sometimes. It's either that or opening like the homepage to CNN when I see people talking about something and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. What's happening? what just happened? What? One of those. But yeah, if I open if I turn Discover back on, because of course I turned it off on Chrome. Got The Verge. Okay. Website I've never heard of. A lot of websites I've never heard of. Actually, this is pretty okay. I'm not seeing any junk.
Oh, good. Okay, so speaking of junk, I
Hmm.
don't know if that transition really works here,
Sure.
but one big thing happened this last week. Well, a lot of big things happened this last week, but as it turns out, a company named Beeper. Actually, wait, was that the name of the company? Who cares? Anyway, that's at least the name of the app. Uh, they they're one of those companies that has been offering kind of the you can have iMessage on an Android by running an Apple device on somewhere in the cloud, and you basically are leasing access to it, kind of.
Hmm.
Well, they have partnered up with, I believe it was a 16-year-old student, to bring iMessage full functionality directly to an Android app natively, sort of, ish.
Yeah, this is the difference between every other attempt at this, uh, and the new app is Beeper Mini,
Okay.
and the yeah Beeper is the I don't know if it's a cloud or I think it might just be another server like you run yourself. I'm not sure, but yeah, like all of the other solutions that this involve, like a Mac computer somewhere with iMessage running that will act as a relay for messages. But this app is actually directly communicating to Apple servers, so it's more just like a direct client for iMessage, which is interesting. I didn't read the full. That they released kind of a technical paper about how it works. I didn't have a chance to read the whole thing. I know it sort of involves just sending a little bit of data to like make it think you're using an iPhone, and then the servers will talk, um, which has raised the interesting question of if Apple wanted to do anything about this, they would potentially be turning off iMessage for a lot of their own products, because there's no like device level like encryption key that gets sent back and forth. It's not basic because obviously it took a lot of work to figure this out, but like in terms of like ensuring that the request is coming from an iPhone, it's not that complicated. So if Apple wanted to ramp that up, uh they probably have to cut off some older iPhones and Macs from using iMessage.
Further proving this is why Apple should really start being able to update their apps through the store instead of relying on firmware updates to do it. But yeah, so um, this this comes along at obviously an interesting time. This is just after Apple has finally committed to supporting RCS someday. Um, I think most people are still pretty convinced that's not going to happen until the release of the next iPhone. But yeah, so RCS support is at least coming to iPhones. In all likelihood, this is still going to irritate Apple at least to some extent because this is the full Monty. There's no question to it. Like this is fully working around their protocol. This allows you to imitate a blue bubble, so to speak. You get all of the features of iMessage, minus, of course, the stuff that's like really, really Apple specific things, like functionality that truly has to be on an iPhone. Um, like the integration with other apps and other services, things like that. I assume payments and things like that. That sort of stuff that doesn't work. But sending emoji, uh, group chats, read receipts, typing indicators, um, pretty much
Oh,
everything apparently works. Or, well, some of it I think was still on the like to do list, but for the most part,
yeah. I saw there was an article recently that was talking about like what is in development. Um, I want to say I saw like they were talking about FaceTime support, which I imagine would be pretty easy because FaceTime is like a web app. so it can just like embed that in a slightly better way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, very, very cool stuff. Gonna be interesting to see what Apple does here. Again, like every time one of these, hits the news cycle, I just kind of be like I know they don't want to do this, but like, God, Apple would make infinity money if they made iMessage like a $5 a month app on Android. Like, it would just be like immediately decimate every other messaging platform in the US. It's like it would be the easiest sell of all time.
The more I think about it, or as I think about that, I don't know that I agree. For one, I think there are a lot of people who would just look at that and go, it's, well, you say $5 a month, even if it's, whether it's cheaper or more expensive, whatever. I think there's a lot of people who would just look at that and go, nah. And, obviously some portion of people would be happy to pay for that, and it's just, the more I think about it, the more I can't picture an overwhelming majority doing it. And so, plus a lot of people don't trust Apple. The same way that a lot of Apple fans don't trust Google, there are a lot of people who just simply don't trust Apple either, because Apple's done a really good job of sweeping a lot of their security oopsies under the rug. But they have basically an almost identical history to Google for the things that they've done to customers, like spying on location, reading your email, accessing various things that are visible through cameras. Like, all of these things are things that at some point or another both companies have actually been nabbed doing. So
yeah, like there was the whole thing where I don't know if it was implemented, but there was that whole thing a year or two ago where they were going to scan images for illegal content. I'm not going to say the word because then Cody will get decimated from orbit by YouTube, but and they eventually decided not to do that. I don't know if that rolled out, but
no, well, okay, so
it was, at a minimum, it was something they said they were going to do.
Yeah, they officially walked back their plans and basically said they're still going to do something, but not at the level that they were originally describing. And as far as I'm aware, they sort of just never spoke of it again. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't implemented. It just means that they decided that admitting to it was probably a mistake. So, which actually, I didn't put it in the list, but there's probably a news story related to that that's worth mentioning in a minute too. But yeah, I think they're not the most upfront company about everything that they do. So, and a lot of people know this. Like, it just is what it is. So I don't think a lot of people trust Apple quite enough for that. And then add to it that I think there's just a lot of people who wouldn't want to pay for it. Simple as that. Most of the people who really want iMessage are just getting iPhones. And it's a relatively small portion that are like, no, I'll use one of these other workarounds. So I don't know.
I mean, I think if it was like a solution from Apple, I do think there would be a lot of people who would pay for it. I know if I'm thinking of groups of people who would not, I'd say definitely like any price is an issue. Like, there's just going to be people who are like, no, I'm not going to pay a subscription for this, and I'll just put up with, SMS or whatever. I think a big issue, one of the big reasons why this keeps getting in the news is because increasingly younger people in the US really want to use iMessage, and there's a lot of news articles about like kids getting harassed because they don't have blue bubbles, whatever. Now kids don't have a lot of money, so that would be an issue as well.
Yeah.
So maybe not a ton of people in that group. I don't know, but it'd be interesting. And we kind of went through this with. I think this sounds really stupid out of context, but I think iMessage is totally this generation's BlackBerry Messenger, where it is like this
Oh, yeah.
killer messaging thing. Now, it is a little bit of a different situation because now I was not conscious of its impact while it was still around. I only like near the end of its existence, but BBM, I don't know if it really ever seeped into the mainstream in the way that iMessage did. I guess it depends on how much of its audience dove out of that. But near the end of BBM's existence, it did become just an app you can use on anything. But that was mostly just because it was losing influence rather than anything else.
So I'm going to note that, in my opinion, there were two big differences. One is BBM's supremacy was very short-lived. What people don't really talk about is like the point where it got popular. Okay, so it was in use for many years between like business uses. Like it would get distributed to people who work at a company, and they would be messaging other people at the same company or other companies sometimes through BBM, and that was going on for years. The point where it got popular among like kids in school, or just anybody outside of the the business scene, the point where that started and the point where that ended, that was like 2 to 3 years. Probably 3 years, I think. It was not long lived.
Yeah, iMessage has been going for a while.
Yeah, iMessage is definitely a much longer lived phenomenon.
Yeah, because I did check, because I was like, I was having this conversation the other day, and I was like, all right, how old of an iPhone are we talking about getting cut off if like Apple wants to do that to like cut down on the other implementations? And iMessage showed up in iOS 5. So it's been like about close to 10 years. I think that was like 7 or 8 years.
And
boy,
hey, Hoopy, welcome.
Hoopy has arrived. Hoopy.
Yeah, it
iOS
has been a
15
long
was
time since we've seen you in during a
2011. Oof. It was in iOS 5 and Mac OS X Mountain Lion, which was a great Mac OS release.
Okay.
I had that on my Mac Mini. I remember.
Honestly, I'm not sure if that's one of the ones I skipped. Oh wait, yeah, definitely. Wait a second. No, I didn't. I don't remember if I skipped that or not. Because I started in Snow Leopard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I think I did end up on Lion. I might have skipped Mountain Lion. Or it could have been the other way around. I don't remember. Anyway. So the thing is, though, I do think that iMessage, the other aspect of it is, it has grown beyond just narrow groups.
Right.
So the thing with BBM is it caught on with, again, like, people working for companies where they were issued a BlackBerry, and it caught on with oftentimes their kids, and through that it kind of caught on within schools. That was it. Like, nobody else was using BBM. You didn't have like random neighbors who were doing anything with it. That's obviously not the situation with iMessage. With iMessage, like, you just actually have lots and lots of people. You have people in all age groups who are actively using it. And as a result, it's definitely picked up more. Plus, it's funny because BBM really was actually very good for group chat. iMessage, of course, famously also good for group chat. The thing is, nobody with BBM was actually like bullying anyone else because they
Right.
weren't part of the group. Granted, people are
It's
still kind of left
because
out, but
yeah.
but
Because
it
again,
wasn't
yeah,
as shameless.
it hadn't hit mainstream, and also again more adults.
Yeah.
That probably helped. Adults can be mean too sometimes, but probably not like a little bit different from getting like harassed in middle school because your messages don't work a certain way.
I
Anyway,
mean, adults being mean in petty ways. Corbin, can I tell you about a thing called Nextdoor?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
adults being mean in petty ways.
I can't wait until I'm 55 and can finally afford a house, and then I can be the person like, "Hey, buddy, your grass is just too high. It's too high. You need to cut them." I, I strive not to be that person, but I
Oh,
think it would be very funny.
oh, Corbin, you sweet summer child.
I know it's
That's what you
no,
think happens on Nextdoor.
I'm aware of what happens there most of the time. But
Oh,
yeah,
if a week
I'm
could go
on
by without another person defending January 6th
yeah
insurrectionists.
yeah yeah. It's like I'm on the app and I'm like, hey, is anyone? I found a cool bunny, but he keeps eating like my grass. Does anyone know what to do? And then the person below me in the shade is like, actually, I don't see what the big deal is about January 6th.
Oh, they might not be that direct about it. They would start by bringing up that you should use your Second Amendment rights to kill the bunny from your front door,
Right.
and then the next step is get into conspiracy theories about the latest one I've heard is apparently the people on January 6th needed to get inside because it was very cold outside.
Yeah.
I wish I was
I would
kidding. That's actually
I
a
would
real thing people are saying.
or I would go on Nextdoor and get really crazy about a fun conspiracy theory. Like like I would go on there, just keep making posts. They're like, guys, all the Walmarts are fake. They're not real. That's it.
They're the
Or
transition
something,
point between the simulations.
yeah. Or something fun with aliens. That's fun, you know.
Oh well, I mean,
Guys, I think Ted down the block is an alien. Um, have you seen him recently?
Hoopy, quoting me saying you should use your Second Amendment rights to kill the bunny. I mean,
I will not. They're
I
fine.
I will. I'm proud to go to my grave with that as a quote. Um. Yeah. So anyway, and how do we get here from talking about iMessage? Yeah, I
Oh,
know
that's
how we
what
got here,
that's.
but
I was just wondering what we were talking about. I forgot.
oh, we're going beautifully off the rails.
Well, we're done with that one now. So what's up? What's up next?
Okay, so we're now
Oh,
we're gonna
oh
we're
yeah.
gonna go straight into another conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Our conspiracy theory rich zone. Windows 10 will stay secure after 2025, but only if you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah. Okay. So I've definitely complained about this on the RambleCast before, and I've also complained it in a Spacebar article I wrote a little while back. How the end of life date for Windows 10 is October 2025, so a little under 2 years from now. And the problem with that is that there are millions of computers that cannot update to Windows 11 because of the higher hardware requirements, and also just a lot of people who probably don't, because Windows 11, even though it's better in a lot of ways, is also slightly more aggressive with the stuff that people really don't like in Windows 10, where, bugging you to use Edge. It's got the stupid widgets popping up that are just spam articles. a lot of stuff that is not great. So mainly the hardware thing becomes an issue where Microsoft is saying, okay, after October 2025, if your computer is still on Windows 10, we're not going to patch anymore. So, the next Intel Zero Day that comes along, the next easy security hole that malware can take advantage of, your computer will just be a pretty easy target. And that was frustrating to me because, again, a lot of computers cannot update to Windows 11, and this is quicker than Microsoft has retired previous versions of Windows. And to get a little bit tinfoil hat, I can't help but wonder if part of the motivation here is the fact that the PC industry as a whole did really great in 2020 and 2021, and then it absolutely tanked because everyone bought their computers to work from home, and then no one needed to buy a new computer for a long time. So I think it is now very slowly starting to recover, but the past 2 years, or 1.5, 2 years, have been really rough. And if your old computer can't run Windows 11 officially, there's a motivation for you to maybe go out and buy a new computer. I don't know if that's really in the logic here, but it does feel a little bit like that to me. So I've been complaining that Microsoft needs to support Windows 10 for a little bit longer, or drop some of the silly hardware requirements for 11. One of those would be good. And they did something else, which is that they will offer extended security update plans for Windows 10, which in itself is not really a surprise because they do that for every Windows release, because there's always companies or government organizations that have a bunch of PCs on some version of Windows and they don't want to upgrade for whatever reason. And some, I don't know if this is really true with with the when this happened with Windows, when this is going to happen with Windows 10, but definitely in terms of supporting XP for forever, there's a lot of hardware that just does not work with stuff that's newer. So that's why XP is probably still running somewhere in some critical infrastructure, I'm sure.
I'm thinking of a couple of companies I've contracted with. I'd be shocked if they aren't still running XP.
Yeah. A lot of hospitals and stuff, because it's all made to run on there's some MRI machine somewhere that just will not work with anything else. So not a surprise that there's going to be extended support. And how this has worked in the past is that companies can pay for that. And also in the past, it's been pretty easy to modify a home copy of Windows to take those. So all those weird people that wanted to keep using Windows 7 for as long as possible, that's what they use to stay relatively secure for a few more years. But that ended for Windows 7 finally earlier this year. So now all those people are just making bad decisions. So the surprise this time is that Microsoft will offer the extended security updates to normal people, to individuals. So there will be a subscription you can pay for that will give you the updates. I believe it's for 3 more years, and you can pay. It's I think you renew it yearly or something.
Did they discuss how much this is going to cost?
No, okay. There's no pricing. So, who knows? And again, this is just security updates, which isn't really a change from Windows 10. Windows 10 really has not received any big features for the past 2 years anyway. But extended security, it's literally just you're getting patches. Nothing else is changing. Maybe apps will start to drop Windows 10 probably during the support period, I would imagine. Depends on how close Windows 11 sticks to Windows 10 in terms of the underlying architecture.
I was just gonna say, I don't see any good argument for why apps should drop support for Windows 10 at all.
Yeah, it's gonna depend. I imagine maybe games will be up first, depending on the game.
That actually was the last thing I would have thought of. Mostly because games shouldn't really involve Windows APIs all that much outside of just basically the launch side of it. And outside of that, it's just DirectX. And
Yeah.
DirectX is usually not really tied to the OS version so much. It's just a version of DirectX.
Well, I know. I think there's been some of the newer graphics cards and that kind of thing are only making the drivers officially for Windows 11. So we're seeing like the start of it. I don't know where the line will be drawn necessarily, because really this year is when everything has dropped Windows 7. So it's been a while. Like Microsoft again stopped the extended support updates for Windows 7 this year. That's also when they stopped working on Microsoft Edge for Windows 7, which was the new Chromium Edge, was like the latest browser for that. Google Chrome dropped it. Plex Server dropped Windows 7. There's been I think Kodi, the media player, dropped that. So maybe they'll wait until like Windows 10's extended updates are done if they're going to follow that same pattern. But yeah, so there's no pricing for this yet, which, like, this is better than nothing, but it still doesn't feel great. Because ultimately, I know, like, there's a lot of people who are going to still have a Windows 10 PC in 2025 because they cannot afford a new computer that is officially compatible with Windows 11. So for those people, I would imagine the logic breakdown, or even for people outside that group, if I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, do I want to pay, I don't know what it'll be, whatever number of bucks per month to maybe not get hacked, versus see what happens with no security patches. I think probably a lot of people are gonna just try to go without it, because again, in the past, this has been just for companies who really need to not get malware on their network. That would be disastrous.
Yeah.
But again, we know from how long XP stuck around and Windows 7 that there's a lot of people who will just keep using it until it breaks. So I don't know how many people will take this option, even if it does exist. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I would have liked to see the free support go a little bit longer, but
The thing I think we're going to end up seeing, to some extent, I think it's going to. All right, look. These are OS updates. We've seen Apple literally try to do this many years ago. Apple actually put out, Apple used to charge for, updates to the iPhone, and of course, famously, or well known, they also charge for macOS updates. This at the time was fairly reasonable for the macOS updates. I think most people expected to pay for major updates to an operating system, because at that time it was normal. Linux was the only thing that didn't charge for updates. So when they did it with the iPhone, I think a lot of people were not super thrilled about that, but a lot of people obviously paid for it. It wasn't too weird of a thing. The thing is, almost everybody out there, well, not almost everybody out there, but a lot of people were quickly like, wait a second, it's just a firmware update. So can't I just restore this off of or get a hold of this file, restore it off of iTunes, and look at that, I now have the new version? Yeah, it worked. Of course it worked. It was an easy thing to do. And fun fact, technically you can still do it that way. No one's going to, because that's dumb. It's pointless. You can get the iPhone updates for free, and you don't need to do any weird extra steps to install it. I'm just thinking, if these updates are going to be out there and they're signed packages, one assumes, it's probably not that hard to install them. Like, people are definitely going to be pulling the files. People are going to be sharing them around. I think a lot of people just have to really get these updates on their own and install them as
Yeah,
they
I'm.
like. What's Microsoft going to do? Are
Yeah,
they going to
I,
lock you down and say, well, you can't use your copy of Windows anymore because you installed illegal updates? No. They get sued into oblivion for that. Are they going to make you uninstall the update? Good luck. I there's that's impractical as could be. Um,
yeah,
what else are
my
they gonna do? Like,
understanding. Yeah, my understanding back in the when this happened with Windows 7 is that it was very easy to get the corporate updates. I don't know what's changing this time around, but historically it's been really easy to like uh make Windows think it's a licensed copy or whatever. So if it's kind of the same thing, it's probably still going to be pretty easy. Um we'll see. Again, I also would really like to know what the cost will be. Um
mm-hmm.
it's kind of an important consideration here.
And well, we obviously don't know this part. I kind of wonder if they're gonna try to do a thing where, like, it's per seat, per account. I'm assuming it'd be per seat, or rather per license copy. But you know, it kind of makes sense to charge a company. Like, if a company has 1,000 computers, you kind of want to charge them for all 1,000. But then if you've got a random person who just happens to have like 3 computers that are running Windows 10 for whatever reason in their home, do you really want to charge them for all 3? I feel like you're gonna just annoy people by nickel and diming them for each copy that they're running. So, there are issues here where they run the risk of just annoying customers more than anything, and they're not going to make enough money out of any of this to possibly make that worthwhile.
Yeah, and like obviously as a tech company, like part of the issue here is that again they're not like legally required to really support anything for most people. That's the main issue. We don't have great laws about this. And as a tech company, like obviously you can't support everything for forever because that's not how any of this works.
Tell
But
that to tell that to all the people who are still supporting OS 2.
yeah, yeah, they're wild. But I do still think that dropping support for Windows 10 is kind of egregious. Like one of the most bad examples of this recently, because again, like there were PCs like made in like 2017, 2018 that are not compatible, and because of this hardware ecosystem, like a lot of those PCs were probably like sitting on store shelves for like a year, or they get resold as refurbs or whatever. So there's still just a lot of these computers floating around that maybe you bought a computer last year that is not compatible, because again it was like it was mostly like 8th gen Intel and beyond, and Ryzen 2 and beyond. So like probably not a new computer last year, but like again really not hard to stumble on to one of these, just because again historically PCs, they kind of last for a really long time, so it's not really an issue if your computer is 5 years old until now.
Yeah. Well, and obviously we've had this conversation many times about phones. What is the useful life of a phone?
Right.
If you're talking about most phones, I think everyone out there is going to say, well, if you toss out the number 3 years, everyone's going to say, oh yeah, phone should absolutely be usable and updated for 3 years, no question. And even that, some companies don't maintain. I think reasonably, once you push a phone out to, let's say, 5 years, most people are going to say, all right, we'd love to see software support go longer, but we can kind of understand 5 years as a cap. When you're talking about a computer, if you were asking this same question, let's say in the early 2000s, pretty much everyone would say the useful life of a computer is about 7 years, give or take about a year. And if you asked Mac owners, it was more like 3 years. Because, man, they really love to upgrade. If you ask most people now, if you throw out the number 7 years, I think most people are going to say, what are you kidding? Why would I only have a computer for 7 years? What's wrong with you? And unless
Right.
they're talking about like a laptop that they really want to upgrade frequently, I think most people would hear 7 years and just, they'd laugh. I think even if you say 10 years now, like most people would say, okay, I get it, but it needs to be supported longer. Because I might stop using a computer at 10 years, but I don't want it to just become suddenly unsupported at 10 years. I need it to go longer than that. And right now that's what Windows 10's fate is 10 years. That doesn't really work for a lot of cases. And I think generally speaking, whatever the expected useful life of a computer is, I think it, generally speaking, for something as generalized as Windows is, it should probably have at least security support for an extra, I would say, 2.
Yeah, I think so I'll preface this by saying definitely everything should be supported for as long as like technically possible, all that fun stuff. Even though phones are most people's computers, so I would expect the software support to kind of be similar because it's most people's computers. I get that. I'm not like as upset about phones being generally shorter, because phones, I think most people they degrade physically quicker than they do like internal hardware. So like most people are probably upgrading phones because they dropped it 15 times and it's broken. Whereas like laptops maybe have the same dynamic going on, but like desktop computers, like that can just sit at a desk for, 15 years. It's fine. So yeah, definitely.
See, I would have actually had a slightly different argument. Well, I definitely have a different argument for why, but it's funny that you're saying that phones degrade faster when, to me, I'm thinking, yeah, but phones are basically 100% solid state, except for a vibrating motor. Whereas desktops, at least up until fairly recently, still at least had spinning discs and fans and other parts that actually will literally break down.
Yeah, my desktop computer is solid state and it's all glued together, so if one thing breaks, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my argument with phones, why I'm willing to accept a shorter lifespan on a phone, setting the battery aside, because battery is kind of its own subject.
And yeah, most of the time that part can be easily replaced, or not easily, but replaced.
Well, it is replaceable. Yeah.
Yeah. I pay someone to do it.
My reasoning for allowing phones to have a shorter lifespan is because the technology going into phones is still advancing at so much of a faster rate. You have apps that absolutely are demanding more and more from phones, and so phones do have to move along faster and gain more performance over time. And so the hardware that's going into them is sort of necessarily moving at a faster clip. So I'm willing to accept the idea that a phone can effectively need to be replaced to stay appreciably modern and relevant. Now, obviously, that's not necessarily a fair thing to say, because you could obviously hand a perfectly good 10-year-old phone to somebody, and if it weren't for the fact that it won't connect to any cellular networks anymore, obviously a senior citizen who is only going to use it for calling and texting would still be able to use it just fine. Like,
yeah,
it has the hardware to keep up with their needs. But yeah, it's a more complicated argument than just does it still work. And also, I just mentioned, obviously, like cellular networks and various other compatibility issues. phones are getting, they're still moving, they're still advancing. Now,
Yeah.
if we have the same conversation in 10 years, then no, F you. The phone needs to have like 10 years of support, because there's no reason you
Right.
shouldn't be able to buy a phone that's going to last 10 years unless there's like a cellular jump where, yeah, sorry, the phone you got 10 years ago just literally can't connect to anything now because
Right. Yeah. Like
changes.
if at some point we get like the ability to do like multi-gigabit data speeds reliably in the US, but like it requires like shutting off 4G, it's like, okay, I guess, sure, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll all
That
have cancer and
never.
our brains won't be working anymore.
Yeah.
But
Worth it. Yeah. Yeah.
yes. We can browse the whatever we want at lightning speed.
Yeah. Network connectivity is a good point. I kind of forgot about that because that is definitely like something that needs to be like reasonably recent for good experience on a phone. Like if you have a phone without 5G at this point, like you're definitely getting reduced connectivity because carriers have started to move that capacity to 5G. But like if you've got a computer at home that's like Wi-Fi 3, it's fine. It can still talk to your router. It's okay.
Yeah, and most people don't even have wired connections that can keep up with any of the recent Wi-Fi protocols. So
yeah, like when I turn on my Nintendo Wii, I think it might have the original Wi-Fi, I'm not sure. But you know what? My Eero's like, okay, sure, buddy, you can have an internet connection. That's fine.
Yeah. It's funny at this point, Bluetooth is almost catching up to some of the old Wi-Fi's. But yeah, yes. Well, okay. So
unlike Wi-Fi, it keeps getting worse every time.
Yeah, God, it really does. Yeah, somehow Bluetooth just cannot seem to not be terrible. But anyway, yeah. So my general point, going back to it, is I do think that it's okay if phones have a shorter lifespan or support cycle right now. That situation changes someday, or will progressively shift. There will come a point where I think in a few years, not that many years away, we should be saying, okay, standard for every phone, like you do not get to play in this arena if you don't have minimum 5 years of support. And the number we actually think you should be at like 7, 8, maybe more. That's where we should be getting to next. We're not there. I think it's okay we're not there. But we will get there. Like we should make no bones about it. Like that is a point we're going to reach, and someday it should go beyond that, but we'll see. Computers today are at that point. Like period, end of discussion. 10 years should be the accepted standard, and longer really should be the correct answer.
Yep. Maybe one day.
Also, maybe most computers are upgradable.
Yeah. Well, I don't know actually.
Well, upgradable to a point. Admittedly, if you got a laptop from say 8 years ago, probably doesn't have USB-C. Probably does. It's actually kind of sketchy that it even has USB 3.
It seems like a lot of consumer oriented computers followed Apple in the we're gluing everything together model. But yeah, like there's still a lot of like gaming laptops. Most of those, like they by design, you can swap out the SSD and RAM and stuff. All the like, business ones that like Acer and Dell sell to companies are supposed to be able to be upgraded. Supposedly some Chromebooks, because it's kind of important for schools, but I don't actually know how well that works.
Yeah, well, by all the previous reports, that's not really a thing. Apparently, schools really got shafted. But it, just got an email from Fandango. Anyway, um, but yeah, when I say upgraded, to be fair, what I was getting at, and like, I mean, I hit on USB right away. My point is more that if you're missing something, you can still theoretically plug it in somehow. But admittedly, if the computer is falling far enough behind, that might not really be an option. In at least not in all cases, you might not have the bus speed to support it, or you might not even have enough lanes to handle certain speeds. That can be a limiting factor. And I'm not saying that there aren't going to be some limiting factors to some computers, but in practical terms, a good huge chunk of them should still be perfectly functional at 10 years old. And they're not going to be fast, they're not going to be enjoyable to use, but resigning them to the landfill is probably not the right choice.
Yeah, I will say, like, playing with older computers, I definitely do think that, like, we did pretty good, generally speaking, on the whole backwards compatible technology thing. It feels like not perfect, but like it is very cool that I have this like 1999 Power Mac G3 over here, and it has an Ethernet jack. I plugged it into my, access point, and the computer has Wi-Fi because Ethernet is, backwards compatible. It's like 100 megabit Ethernet, but it's there. It's not degraded. It's got USB ports, and I do have my little adapter that gives you a USB Type C port on an A port. And I mostly use this for like my monitor that only has the USB A, but I did plug it into the Power Mac to use my wireless headset that has a USB-C adapter thing, and it worked. That's pretty cool. So definitely some things we really nailed down in the, like, you can kind of keep using it for forever category. A lot of stuff we have not, like Windows updates.
Yeah. But speaking of Windows updates...
Yeah, unfortunately, my Power Mac doesn't get security updates anymore.
To be fair, no one is trying to exploit your Power Mac anymore.
It's true. It's true. I've got security through obscurity now.
Yeah.
And someone's making a Mastodon client for it, so I'm fine.
It's actually funny. So I was looking into some old games recently, and I came across this discussion where somebody was saying, oh no, you should run all this stuff, like if you get any old games off of like pirate sites or through torrents or anything like that, watch out, you need to run this stuff through virus scanners and make sure that they're clean and everything like that. And I'm looking at this like, guys, you're running this stuff in DosBox. You do understand that at this point, any viruses that were there at the time, that stuff doesn't work anymore. That stuff's broken. Yeah. There's no chance it functions. And do you think new viruses are being written to wiggle their way through DosBox into your OS? Really? Come on.
Yeah, they don't need to do that. They can just get the next 0 day in Intel CPUs. It's much easier.
Yeah, like you're asking people to do more work to break into your computer. Really?
Yeah.
We're getting silly here, people.
And it's like if I get like malware in my DOSBox, it's like, oh no, it deleted the files in my DOSBox folder.
Yeah.
Damn. I lost my Fallout 1 save file.
Yeah, or the people who are running like a VMware of Windows 95 or something so that they can play some old game. It's like, yeah. Sure, okay, you broke into somebody's VM. Woo, special. They'll just delete it and start over. Who cares? It's easy. Yeah, malware in my DOSBox should have been a title for this episode. It might actually become that. I'll probably change it after, now that I think about it. You're right. Um, malware in my DosBox. Sounds ever so slightly dirty, and I like that. Um, but no, anyway, speaking of, I'm forcing this transition now. Speaking of updates, there's talk about the next Windows update. Yeah, we're actually staying on the Windows topic even. Who knew? So
You drop the link to this because I don't have this one. I gotta go soon also.
Yeah, Windows Central shared an exclusive, apparently, talking about the next version of Windows, which is currently unnamed. I'm sort of jumping to the middle here. They haven't decided yet if they're going to call this Windows 11, just with a new subversion, or if it's going to actually become Windows 12. The big talking point, of course, is it's going to be AI focused. It's apparently going to have tons and tons of AI built in, like into everything kind of stuff. And the details of which are obviously still kind of fuzzy. They haven't really... This is, by the way, also mostly like rumor via somebody who is inside of Microsoft or has some sort of knowledge. But yeah, at this stage, it's basically just kind of a promise that there will be a lot of AI. One kind of has to assume that it's going to be a lot of the Copilot stuff that's been previously sort of talked about in presentations, where you'd be able to ask your computer to do something and it will just figure out a way to do it. That's sort of been the principal idea of a lot of the Copilot stuff. And a few examples in this article are given, like being able to search for a specific term or something like that, and if you've come across any files at all that fit that description, then it might return them to you. Or being able to to like write out a query, like I want any file that was sent to me by such and such in the last 3 weeks or something, and no matter how you write it, it'll just find all the appropriate files. These are...
I mean, I would settle for a Windows search that worked at all. I think if they need AI to pull that off, so be it. But that's definitely one of the things where when I went back to macOS, I'm like, oh wow, this just works. I just type it in. Sometimes it finds a file in like some weird library folder. That's not what I want, but it found stuff.
That's fair. The thing is, I actually turn off Spotlight. I don't like it taking up system resources and analyzing files. But yeah, I do get it. They definitely got it working a lot sooner than, or a lot better than Microsoft ever did. And to that point, I just generally, I'm amazed that somehow search like that is not something that works better, because it's a fairly easy thing to do. Google proved this many years ago, that search of this kind is not actually that hard. But yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, still, their promises of an AI future are obviously a little bit sort of dreams and hopes. But to be fair, Microsoft has shown pretty well that they do have a sense of what to do with AI. They're just, weird about it. Obviously, they've been very reliant on the OpenAI for a lot of their technology. And how that's going to shape up, we'll see. But the thing is, I'm curious how they're going to one, roll it out, and two, kind of more importantly, how much is this going to rely on developers to make that stuff? Like, they're selling the vision of this in Windows, but how much of that's going to rely on third-party developers to actually like fill in the gaps? Or will they really even have opportunities to fill in the gaps? I mean, that one's kind of hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff here, um, especially about kind of more working together a little bit more closely with Qualcomm on PCs. So like, there's talk that like PCs running the Snapdragon X chip that Qualcomm announced, which is supposed to be like actually comparable to a mobile Intel or AMD chip, like that would be sort of built for this. Um, and I'm definitely interested in that. I still haven't had the chance to review a ARM Windows computer. I'd still like to do that at some point, um, just because uh, based on what I've used with Parallels on M1 Max, like it's actually pretty good now in terms of app compatibility. Don't know what performance is like on Qualcomm's chips. That's what I would like to test more closely, but um, it definitely seems like they're getting the software side of the ARM Windows in a better place. Um, Again, like I like most of what Microsoft has done with Windows 11. So it seems like they're kind of continuing down that road of there's some stuff in here about like more performance and battery life tweaks. I expect it would be a continuation of what we've seen with Windows 11, where Microsoft is actually going in and looking at like what actually needs to be in the operating system, what needs to be redesigned, what needs to be removed. And there was a lot of that in Windows 11 that was pretty positive, and they're still doing that. I'm sure that will continue. Like the latest thing they did is they are phasing out the uh, Windows 8 era mail and calendar apps and replacing them with the new Outlook app, which is a web app, which I don't love, but apparently works fine. The big issue being that like all your external accounts are like connected in the cloud, and a lot of people did not like that, and I understand that because that's not how the apps used to work. So, you know, those people will just have to use Thunderbird, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that poses its own things. Um, so actually, kind of on that topic of ARM, Windows on ARM, one of the things that was brought up was kind of interesting. Apparently, they are, or there's going to be a bit of a weird timing issue where a lot of companies want to start shipping new Qualcomm chips not early next year, but like summer of next year is, I guess, the target for this. And the version of Windows that it's called Hudson Valley right now. The version that is going to include a bunch of new features to support that hardware isn't due until like late 2024. So, or later 2024, I guess. I think they're expecting to ship it around September, October. So yeah, Hudson Valley won't be coming until late in the year. The Snapdragon X Elite chips are going to be coming summer or maybe even a bit earlier. And so they're going to be shipping hardware running Windows 11, the current Windows 11 platform, without all this new hardware or without the software that's supposed to actually support these chips properly. So yeah, that's it happens. I get it, but they're sort of setting people up for maybe kind of disappointment when these chips arrive and they're probably just not really going to perform up to their potential.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And again, I do wonder what the upgrade path from 11 to 12 will look like, because there are famously a lot of PCs that updated to Windows 11 bypassing all of the requirements that don't really exist, my gaming PC being one of them. So question on my mind is, are those requirements still going to be fake and made up, or are they actually required, and just we'll go through this whole upgrade thing again uh, that will be interesting.
So, one of the things mentioned in this article too is apparently, since there is going to be a fairly heavy focus on AI, a lot of the features or a lot of the new features may require an actual NPU, a neural processing unit. So, whether or not that's true, like that, I'm not really sure if this is speculation on the part of the writer or maybe their source or whatever. But if that is true, man, that's really cutting off a lot of computers.
I mean, I would imagine you just don't get those features if you don't
Hopefully.
have the special hardware. I feel like Microsoft is not crazy enough to do that. Or if they would, then it would come with the thing where, okay, we have to support Windows 11 for 10 years.
Well, you say you hope they're not crazy enough to do that, but they
They
literally
did
did that with
TPU,
Windows
yeah.
11. They literally said, hey, you need to have this secure, basically a secure enclave kind of chip in your processor. Or, well, I'm choosing poor words to explain this, but
It's somewhere in the computer, in the box.
Yeah, you have to have a security chip that you can store private, or that the OS can store private data into. And yeah, I mean, that was a strict requirement. It wasn't actually necessary. That was a fake requirement, but yeah, I mean, they did do that. So I don't know that we can rule out that this could happen here.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Again,
But also
I've
doing
noticed-
two of those in such a short span of time.
right,
Doing that
it might
once
be-
with the upgrade to Windows 11, and then presumably if Hudson Valley ends up being Windows 12, setting a requirement for NPU on your chip, like, that's asking a lot.
Yeah, like I think they got a little bit of a pass from some people with Windows 11 because like they had not really done that ever. Like Windows 10 ran on basically everything that you could run Windows 7 or 8 on. So it's like, oh, now you've decided to move the barrier. Okay, whatever. And then if they do it again, it's like, hold on, I agreed to the last one, but not this.
Yeah, we were already not happy with the last one, but
Yeah.
and this time around, well, with 10, obviously you could work around it. There were a lot of hacks that you could use to just install 11, and you didn't need all the hardware. You didn't need these specific hardware requirements that they asked for. If an NPU is actually going to be necessary, I'm thinking that that's something that there's no avoiding it. Like, is actually necessary.
Well,
unless those
it's like
features
with-
just don't work. Like, maybe they fail gracefully or something. But
Yeah, well, like with Windows 11, there was one of the actual requirements was like they do not support 32-bit x86 anymore. So like that is a hard, limit. You can't bypass that. Not really, probably any 32-bit PCs around that could run Windows 11. So that's understandable. Like really, the only 32-bit only stuff that's been made in the past decade was like the trail end of netbooks. It's like they're not gonna do anything anyway. It'll just crash immediately anyway.
yeah.
That's fine. Or like all those very sad Windows 8, like early Windows 10 era tablets. Some of those were 32-bit.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. I think I don't think they've done it already. I know they're working towards dropping support for. Actually, I think Windows 11 did drop support for 32-bit ARM as well. So some of those older Windows 10 ARM stuff, like some of those got left behind, but those were like 5 computers. So
yeah, exactly.
Sucks if you bought, again, just like if you were one of those suckers who bought the first Surface tablet, like, sorry, you you rolled the dice wrong. Sucks to be you.
Yeah.
Okay. I do need to go now, but
All right. Well, you've already shilled, I think, almost everything.
I've already shilled. But yeah, go I'll put just a link to the space bar in the YouTube chat. You can go read it, add it to your RSS reader of choice, or put your email in, whatever. Uh, Spacebar is I'm getting close to 200 email subscribers. Pretty cool.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Which, not that it's super related, but I didn't even know this until just before we started stream. I just hit 150 subscribers on this channel.
Excellent.
Pretty much all of them came here for watching me play Fall Guys, so that's not what I was aiming for, but it seems to be the target I've hit.
Yep, number one Fall Guys influencer, and we're the RambleCast extended universe is doing well.
Yes. Oh boy, we're a strange bunch in this world. It is a weird timeline.
Yep.
And Hoopy, yes, couldn't agree more. If you bought the first Surface tablet, you definitely knew you were screwed.
Yeah,
you figured that out a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, all right. Have fun, everyone.
All right, man. Well, take it easy, and we'll catch you next time.
Yes. Farewell.
Okay. So let's see. Couple of other. Oh wait. Do I wanna? Yeah, I'm moving a window around because. Wait a second. Oh. Hold on. Where's it at? There it is. Since the chat box is for whatever reason working this week, we'll leave it on the screen. God, I constantly have to move things around in these layouts because you never know if the chat box is working, or OBS likes to resize camera views all the time. It's wild. Wild, I tell you. But anyway, I can also kill that window now. Yay. Okay, so anyway, with what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. So some of the things that have also been hyped up with this Hudson Valley update, apparently, or rather the AI aspect of it, they're talking about features like super resolution, which will apparently use the neural processing unit hardware to upscale videos and games. Something that I'm not really sure is going like that feels a little over optimistic, especially to do it for games. I kind of get it doing it for videos, but games, people usually want really high frame rates, and it's hard to believe that they're going to be able to match those frame rates while upscaling, but we'll see. Apparently they're also working on some sort of improvements to a live captions feature. We've had this on phones for a while, so it'd be kind of crazy that they don't have it on computers. Hoopy feels like stepping on Nvidia and AMD's toes with that one. See, if anything, I would say, well, yes, one, possibly stepping on their toes, but more importantly, that's something I would leave up to them. I feel like Nvidia and AMD are in substantially better places to try to do that on the hardware, on their own hardware, their own drivers. Let them try to fill that role. Don't try to do it in the OS. But I don't know. Who am I to judge? Let's see. They also they hyped up something about like creator related things. Sorry, this is not technically part of their AI aspect, but they're talking about like a way to launch a bunch of Microsoft 365 products, like kind of a set of shortcuts for that. Whatever. They're kind of trying to force it. They're also talking about trying to detect renewable times and locations where you'll pull from renewable energy, and use those for charging. Uh, it's funny because you get past the AI stuff and like the actual plans for how they're going to release this, and the rest of this article really, it doesn't sound like that good of an update. It sounds very minor, very minimal. And so the weirdest thing about this is, as much as I think this is going to be a fairly significant update, I also find myself asking the question, is anyone going to care? Like, how many people are just going to see what Windows 12 offers? Unless the AI stuff is really special, how many people are going to look at what Windows 12 offers and just end up saying, you know what, I'm good on 11. I'm just going to stay here a little while longer. And because if it is a pain or an issue of some kind to update to Windows 12, this seems like one of those updates where people are really not going to be compelled to move on, because it sounds like it's not delivering much outside of the AI. And I don't know, I'm sure a lot that this article won't know about or doesn't bother to include, so we'll see. But yeah, I'm not feeling super motivated by most of this stuff, except for the potential for Windows Copilot to be really good. Windows Copilot is the only thing I've heard mentioned in the last year that actually makes me think, oh, I actually want to use this in Windows. Even just, I've mentioned this once or twice before. I set up a VM to run Windows 11, and since setting it up, I've only run it a couple of times. Whoa! My cat almost fell off of the Surface she was sleeping on. But in running it, the thing that has stood out to me is I really just don't like it still. The interface is not that clean. It's not very efficient to use, at least in my opinion. And the irony is they made it so much more like Mac OS, but it's just like missing some things that they need to get right. Anyway, let's see. Hoopy said, really sounds like, what if start menu but AI? What if Cortana but AI? Yeah, no, that's, I think, exactly what they're doing. And I'm actually going to kind of beat up on Google for this in a minute too, but yeah, a lot of what Microsoft is doing, it's things that we already have, just they want AI to run it now. And in some cases that makes sense. I would argue, actually, in a lot of cases, you can make a very genuine argument saying, all right, here's a thing that, here's a function. We know people want this. We can all agree people want these certain things, like having subtitles on video, especially if you can't bring the volume up. Sometimes you want to just have the subtitles popping up for you. And yes, the OS can actually do the job of figuring out what's being said. They can show you subtitles right on the screen. That's a useful function for some people, or in some situations. It's not necessarily the most important thing to run an AI, but maybe you can make it better with AI. They already figured out a way to do it without AI, so maybe AI can do it better in some way, shape, or form. That part I'm with that. But then there's a whole lot of it, and I'm really going to beat up on Google in a minute for this. But there's a whole lot of it where it's like, wait a second. So you took a thing that everyone was happy with the way it worked, and then you decided to make it AI? Is that really accomplishing anything? Is that a win? Is this something anyone's going to get use out of? Or did you just find a way to make it take 10 times more processing power? Because that's what it feels like you did. So yeah, come back to that in a minute. Hoopies, start menu suggestions have been loosely predictive for years. Yeah. I mean, even on, I remember when that became a thing in Android. every launcher was doing predictive suggestions, like at the top or sometimes at the bottom even of the launcher. But in the app drawer, like you'd pull up the app drawer and there'd be your 4 recommended apps or 5 recommended apps sitting there at the top or somewhere in the screen. Yeah, predictive stuff has been a thing for a long time. And technically that is AI. But it's not the type of AI where you have to have a special chip to run it. It's just a thing where it looks at some sort of stat or metric and says, okay, well, at this time of day, the person tends to run this app within, a half-hour window. They usually run this app. Let's just put it right here in front. Or, oh, this person runs this app 15 times a day. Maybe we should just put it there in front where they can reach it faster. Like, there are basic heuristics you can figure out. You don't need a special chip for it. You just need to be able to do some basic metrics tracking and wait. And like in the instance where there's a conflict, where you can't decide like which one's more important, the thing you normally run this time of day or the fact that you run this short list of apps several times a day, which one should we give preference to? Like, that's it. This is stuff that you can do without a neural processing unit. It's something you can do with, honestly, like a 386 chip could have figured that stuff out in a fraction of a second. There's no reason you have to run anything big for it. Also, Chrome has had audio captions for years on basically all desktop platforms. Why the heck does Microsoft need a fancy chip to do it? And again, I'm acknowledging this could be a situation where you might be able to do it better. Because sometimes the captions might come up with like really bad translation, or they might pick the wrong word because maybe they're not good at language. They're not good at figuring out if they hear they hear a sentence and there's one particular word where it sounds almost exactly like some other word. Every once in a while those captions might put in the wrong word. And if you're using AI, maybe it'll get it, maybe it has a better chance of getting it right. So I get that as a reason for trying to use AI here. But I'm totally with you. I just don't see it as it's not the sort of thing that you need to have any big advanced algorithms for. It's something that can be done on, at this stage, some pretty average hardware. So yeah, I'm not seeing necessarily the big winning argument for this. Anyway, to kind of quickly round this out, for anyone who hasn't heard about it, I'm just mentioning this. I'm not really going to talk about it except to say it's kind of cool and I wish they'd hurry up and do this. But they have Core PC, which this is a project that has been around for a while. It is, for lack of a better way to put it, it is sort of like all the initiatives that Android has been doing for several years, where they're breaking the OS up into different parts, and they're making each part individually updatable, and they're making it so that you actually have like a core that is not meant to be modified, and then setting it up so there are hooks so that you can have it call out to mods where it makes sense. So they're modularizing and making it and they're establishing proper mod points, whereas Windows historically has always been designed with this with this thing where sometimes you just patch system files or you screw with stuff in ways that can just break everything, and it's kind of a terrible idea. So it's good they're working on this project. Beyond that, not a lot to say on that. As they did mention in this article, apparently because there are such big differences between Core PC and like their regular Windows version, apparently anything purchased on the original or on a regular Windows platform probably isn't upgradable to core PC when and if they ever launch it, but yeah, we'll see. Okay, so I said I was going to beat up on Google. Let's do that. And actually, this isn't a lot of beating up on Google. This is sort of the a little bit of beating up, a little bit of a congrats, and a little bit of a we'll see what happens. But today we heard about it. Google has a new AI model called Gemini. Gemini is apparently this thing they've been working on for roughly a decade, or at least that's the way the story's kind of being told. It is a much more complicated, much more advanced language model, and it is built to support tons and tons of things. Apparently, one of the biggest things about this is it's going to focus on not just text, but its learning model is actually built to work with audio, video. They say one day it's going to also be able to support things like recognizing gestures and motion. So in theory, it may actually be able to comprehend things that so far no other learning model has really been designed around. The animal model names are better. Actually, yeah, that's fair. They were. But at the moment I heard Gemini, I just gotta say, I saw that and it's like, normally Gemini involves like two things. That's the legacy of the name Gemini is there's some sort of duality to it. There's no mention of that anywhere here, and I don't know. Maybe there's some background explanation for it, but I haven't seen it, and I'm kind of curious why pick the name Gemini, which also is such an overused name. Yeah, but whatever. Okay. So where this gets, well, okay, I guess we'll break to that point in a moment. But so Gemini apparently comes in, we'll call it 3 flavors. They have Gemini Nano, which is going to effectively be the version that they stick onto phones. So this is, I guess, being rolled out to Pixel 8 Pro phones now. Like, this is the December update, and it is getting Gemini Nano installed. And we'll talk a little bit more about Pixel 8 stuff in a minute. There's also going to be Gemini Pro, which is what's going to run Google Bard. And so Bard remains a chatbot. We're going to keep touching that as our sort of web-based interface to Google's AI stuff. And presumably, as of today, Gemini is what's going to be Gemini Pro is what's going to power Bard. Whereas, actually, I don't remember the name of the previous thing, but there was something else that was the previous one. Oh, Austin. Okay, so it was always Gemini. Yeah, Lambda. Okay. All right, so they're just changing the branding. The way they talk about it in all the Verge articles, this is something new, though. I haven't read Google's... Well, there wasn't much to it. Google put out a white paper kind of thing, but it wasn't really... Like, it was very short, and it didn't really contain any real detail. It was more of a press release than a white paper. And they didn't call it a white paper, but that's kind of how it was described. But then when you read it, it's like, no, this isn't telling anything. Anyway, so regardless, the other form of this, which they talked about in this article, but obviously there's nothing materialized yet, is a Gemini Ultra. This is going to be their apparently big, huge enterprise level language model. So this is going to be a big beastly one, which I'm sure loosely translates to it's the one that's going to cost money to use. Whereas Gemini Pro is just going to be there for people to use in Bard. Gemini Nano is going to be on phones, so of course that's free to use. The Gemini Ultra is going to be the one where they're going to charge money for it. Like it is directed at it's directed at being a thing for enterprise customers only. Though we'll see. I'm sure at some point they'll roll it out in other ways to regular users, or at least the side effects of it. Austin. Okay, so Hoopy saying the animals were Lambda 2. Okay, so Gemini is something new then. Okay, good. So The Verge didn't totally mislead. Let's see. Wording suggests Pro and Ultra will both be available via Google Cloud, but Ultra is the more hard problem solving one that isn't good UX because it's slow. Yes, definitely that, but some of the way that it was described, yeah, so okay, here's what it says. Gemini Ultra is coming next year. Developers and enterprise customers will be able to get access to Gemini Pro through blah blah blah. Wait, maybe it was somewhere else in this article. Somewhere I saw a mention of Ultra being for enterprise. I don't think that's quite how they said it, but okay, and Ultra is the one that'll be able to work with images, video, and audio, which I kind of thought Pro was going to support that too, but I guess not. Okay, I don't see what I was thinking of. Oh yeah, okay, here it is. Quote, and there's an even more capable model called Gemini Ultra that is the most powerful LLM Google has yet created and seems to be mostly designed for data centers and enterprise applications. So, read into that however you like. That obviously could mean a lot of different things. But yeah, I expect that it's not going to be for regular users to mess with. This is meant for the same way that you actually have like people whose job it is to operate like the supercomputers at their company. They're the ones who are going to be tasked with using Gemini Ultra to solve some problem or to develop something or to work out how something is supposed to function. I get the impression that it's something that, again, I really just can't shake this feeling that this is the sort of thing that you're going to pay fairly significant money for access to, and each query is probably going to have a price attached to it. But we'll see. Hoopy saying, reading into it, how I like reads is it'll be the go-to one where a corporation wants an AI to extract info from a huge document or something like that. Yeah, I could see that. That's certainly one of the more practical reads on it. And how it gets used, I mean, I think there are a million ways it's going to get used. But yeah, stuff like extracting a lot of data and building out like I could certainly see a scenario where it's like, oh, here's a giant document. Find all of such and such things inside this document. Build us a database that's, formatted like this. Fill in this type of information. Also, figure out what each entry in this database should have for this field. And, you know, I could see them building out some really big, complicated queries aimed at, you know, aimed at large documents, or digging through multiple websites. Possibly, you know, who knows, maybe even something on the level of like, look at a giant list of YouTube videos and figure out which ones do such and such type of thing. The list of things could actually be really huge in theory. Austin saying, so Vertex is now powered by Gemini Pro. That I have no clue on. Anyway, so let's see. Oh, wait, actually, developers and enterprise customers will be able to access Gemini Pro through Google Generative AI Studio or Vertex AI in the Google Cloud starting on December 13th. So, okay. Well, the word now isn't right, but very soon, yes, I guess it will be in Vertex AI. Also, it says Gemini is only available in English for now, with other languages coming soon. I'm going to come back and beat up on that very detail in just a second. Probably unfairly, I admit. I'm not aiming to be fair with this, but let's see. So overall, one of the big thrusting points of this article is that Google is saying they are leapfrogging ChatGPT. Whether or not that's true, your guess is as good as mine. But they claim that in all these benchmarks that some people have come up with, apparently ChatGPT just doesn't perform as well as Google, or as well as Gemini. So presumably they are now, at least they think, ahead of ChatGPT. We'll see. I don't know, and I kind of don't care. I know that maybe sounds a little hostile, but at this stage, I'm not really sure what we're really comparing for. This is kind of like when voice assistants not first came out, but once they had reached a certain point, everyone kind of said, okay, well, which one's better? And universally, everyone just kind of had to shrug and say, well, I don't know, but I use this one and it works. And every time people did comparisons of the various voice assistants, the answers always kept coming back to, oh, I can't find anything that this one can do that I can't do with this other one. Or the things that you came up with, it would always be these really obscure things that nobody should ever really be asking for or caring about. And at that point, it just stopped being worth getting caught up in who's better. It just became a question of, well, which one's it? Is there one that's not doing the job? And the answer to that was just always Siri. Fun fact, always Siri. Because for the most part, Alexa and Google Assistant, they just got the job done. Anyway. Alright, anyway, quickly reading those last few comments. Gonna guess Vertex Lambda will remain as a cheaper option. Would assume most Google Cloud customers aren't building their own LLMs. Yeah, I think that the whole point is that this makes it so you don't have to. But I guess you never know. Anyway, so one of the big talking points, of course, was also that Gemini Nano is going out to the Pixel 8 Pro. Google told The Verge, and I'm sure actually probably nobody else directly, but they told The Verge that right now the Pixel 8 Pro is the only phone that has the hardware capable of running Gemini Nano. Basically because it's got a bunch of AI technology, or it's got an NPU in it that is powerful enough and designed to actually handle this kind of workload. Where this gets kind of weird to me is they discuss what their first projects running this are. Well, actually, before I get to that, so right now they are they put out an application basically inviting people who want to have access to their core AI service, and basically they're inviting developers to be able to make use of Gemini Nano through an API. It's right now basically closed beta, and somewhere, I think late next year, I forget the timeline, but let's just say late next year, they intend to open it up to a large audience. But in the meantime, it's more for testing. Anyway, there are two things that are benefiting from this now, or about to benefit, depending on whether you've updated so far. The first one is the Recorder app. They basically added a feature so that you can use the Recorder, which already is capable of transcribing any spoken or any speech. So if you've ever used the Recorder app, really handy. You can use it to record any language, and it just transcribes that into text. You can skim through it. If I remember, I think you can even tap on a sentence and it just can start playing from the recording in that spot, I think. So really handy, very well done. The AI feature that they are adding is you can now ask for a summary of really long recordings, which is exactly the same feature that a lot of LLMs already do. Kind of the literal, you can paste in a bunch of text and say, give me a summary of this big block of text, or give me a summary of this document, and it gives you like 2, 3, 4 bullet points, something like that. That's what this feature does. It's literally the thing that we've seen every generative AI feature already doing for the last year. They just added that exact feature to the Recorder app. So I don't hate it. It's a nice idea. It just feels like cheating on your homework, I guess. It's again, it's the feature we've had for ages. They're just doing it locally now. And that's kind of cool, but it's also, again, a thing we've had for ages. Now you just don't have to copy that text to a web page where you ask some generative AI thing to do that exact task. So, I mean, it's good. It just feels halfway there. The other thing, and this is the one I have to beat up on them for. The other feature that is powered by Gemini is a smart reply feature in Gboard. Now you might be thinking, don't we already have smart reply? Yes. You might be thinking, don't we already have smart reply in Gboard? Yes. This works with messaging apps. You might be thinking, wait, don't we have exactly that? What part's new? And the answer is yes and nothing. The new part is it's run on AI. Okay, so it's literally a thing that is going to eat more processing power for a feature we already have. So you might be thinking, is it going to make Smart Reply better? Like, is it going to give better responses than the old Smart Reply, which honestly mostly gave pretty useless responses? Who knows? I doubt it. But to make this, in my opinion, kind of dumber, is the Smart Reply is actually also limited. This Smart Reply only works currently with WhatsApp. That's it. It only works with WhatsApp for right now. And yes, it will support with... It will get support for more apps next year. But for right now, it's just WhatsApp. Now, as a good reminder, and I love this, because they don't say this... Or they say the key part out loud, but they don't say the real key part out loud that I'm going to bring up in a minute. But... right now, it also only supports English. So this smart reply feature that you have to use Gboard, no other keyboard works. It only works in WhatsApp and only works with English. And it's going to take more processing power to do the same thing that the old smart reply already did. I'm just sitting here wondering, like, is this really the example you wanted to use? Does this actually accomplish what you were hoping for? Did you maybe consider for just a second that this was not the right answer? Pick anything else, any other app even, and you would have had a winner. Now, here's why and Hoopy, you said something, and it's funny because yeah. UK Pixel users are going to love this. Because, fun fact, most people in the US do not use WhatsApp. Very few people in the US use WhatsApp. It's not like it's a dead app. It gets used. But it's not super popular here. So, worldwide, though, WhatsApp is extremely popular. Do you know one of the fun things about WhatsApp? Most of the people who use it don't use English. They actually use another language. WhatsApp is wildly popular in a lot of other languages. Less than English. Or, well, sorry, English is less than them, is what I meant to say. So, they won't be able to use it in their language. They'd only be able to use it in English. Let's also throw out, pixels are not super available around most of the world, so the places where it is available, yes, some of them are heavy WhatsApp users, most of them are not. So we've got a phone out there that can only use this feature in a very narrow set of circumstances, or a very narrowed set of circumstances, among a bunch of customers who mostly will not be using it in those circumstances. This was not well chosen. I don't get what they were thinking with this. It's not that this is a bad group to support, but it is definitely not the group I would have suggested supporting. At a bare minimum, you'd think that they might have chosen something like, I don't know, Google Messages, where RCS is actually going to gain some popularity soon, perhaps, maybe, or Facebook Messenger. Facebook Messenger's English audience is massive. It far exceeds WhatsApp. In fact, Facebook Messenger, by all accounts, their non-English user base is actually fairly minimal because all those people use WhatsApp. Their English users overwhelmingly are going to Facebook Messenger over WhatsApp. So even have it, like, if you're going to pick something owned by Meta, it should have at least been Facebook Messenger instead. Austin, are you telling me I'm wrong? I'm pulling that up right now. I have a feeling that's what this probably says. Let's see. This link is pasted into Discord in case anyone's curious. However, examining the issue of dominance of the WhatsApp on the usage from the perspective of language of interaction on the app, Table 4 below shows that despite the ability of most of the respondents to speak or write other local languages, 88% of them use English frequently to chat on WhatsApp. Really? The weird thing is, I've known so many people in other countries, that are, usually WhatsApp users, almost all of them say that they use their native language. They don't use English. So evidently I know only the ones who are the exceptions to the rule. So okay, well, I'll accept that I'm wrong. Either that or WhatsApp doesn't actually know. Let's be honest, there's a fair chance of that too. So yeah, anyway, regardless of what makes sense here or not, again, I'm still gonna beat up on them merely for the fact that Pixel devices are so much more prevalent in the US than they are in most other countries. So that alone, when you match it against the fact that WhatsApp is not super popular here, that alone, you've already got a very narrowing situation. So you can even factor out language as a detail, though I think it still counts. And this just becomes kind of a weak decision. Hoopy, to be fair, some European friends, and apparently most of the time when coming from different regions, they choose to go with English, even if it's the second language for both of them. Yes, and I was going to bring up, like, European friends where, you know, one person's in the US and they want to talk to somebody that's not in the US. Yeah, it's probably happening over WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. So yes, totally agreeing on that point. And so it could factor in there, but that's still on the narrow side of this. I would consider that not a widely common usage scenario. It's just a thing that also happens. And I know I've seen a statistic somewhere that was how much do people talk with people in other countries, and the overwhelming majority is family members, and family will pretty much always talk in their native language. Which, granted, obviously you could have a scenario of somebody who was like somebody moving from the US to some other country, and then as they're talking to their family, they might choose to use WhatsApp, and that obviously would be in English. But well, I can't say obviously, but most likely it's in English. Statistically it is. But you know, again, that's the narrow side of the coin. Or no, whatever, I don't know, I'm not sure what word I want to go with, but it's narrow is my key word there. Don't mean speaking with English speakers. I mean German and Swede will speak in English. Yeah, I did get what you meant there. I'm not sure I said it correctly, but yeah. Because English, for better or worse, in most of the world is just kind of become the de facto default language. It's I mean, if we were talking D&D right now, it is what is everyone refers to as common. There is the common language everyone is supposed to know in order to communicate, and then there are the languages that everybody might speak on their own when they're just amongst their own. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't think either of these, the recorder app or the smart reply feature, I don't think either of these were really the greatest showcases for what Gemini Pro is supposed to be or what it's supposed to do. But you know, I get it. They had to start somewhere, and these, I guess, were easy starting points or something. Not sure, but yeah, it is what it is. I suppose the thing to do is we'll have to wait and see if there's going to be, or how quickly they start rolling out new stuff. That's where this could get a lot more interesting. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Again, it is what it is. We'll see. So was there anything else I wanted to mine from this topic? Uh, oh, yeah. The Verge also mentioned, or also put out a whole article basically just espousing how much this is supposed to be like Bard now being better than ChatGPT. Feel free to read into that however you like. Really, aside from Bard, which gets half credit to my mind, we still haven't seen Google do any real LLM AI products or features. No, we really haven't. At least not that we're directly aware of, and I'm not sure we need to. I know that might sound a little weird to say, but right now, the public perception is, or there are two ways that people are really perceiving AI features. One of them is chatbots, which is Bard. The other way is very purpose-built things. Well, image generation, I guess. Sorry, I guess it's three things. It is chatbots, it's image generators, and then there's purpose-built things like a lot of companies have come out with things that will take like a series of video clips and use AI to detect, here's the best part of this video clip, or here's the part with the most action or the most interest, and then they stitch those together into like a short highlight reel kind of a thing. That is the other way where we're actually seeing some functional AI popping out. And again, I'm calling it purpose built. That's not the only purpose for which we're seeing. It's just one of the easier examples. Yeah, we're seeing a few things. Google's only really done the chatbot, and we'll see if they do more. I'm sure they will. Supposedly some of the image stuff that they're doing and some of the video stuff that they're doing are using some amount of AI, though evidently not Gemini based. How much of that, I guess we'll see. Or though I'm sure want to talk up more and more of it in future product announcements. But yeah, Google really hasn't been doing all of the different things with AI yet, which I have a feeling means that they're probably building it more for internal use. Like, imagine how much AI stuff they probably are trying to build to operate YouTube. YouTube needs AI in order to handle the massive amount of data that they're going through. Frankly, when I saw them talking about how Gemini is so focused on being able to handle things like audio and video, not just text, my immediate thought is, oh yeah, this is definitely so that they can create a better moderator or auto moderator system for YouTube, because they need it. Just plain and simple, they need it. Let's see, Hoopy. I agree we don't need to, but they could be eating ChatGPT's lunch if they just hurried up with Assistant plus Bard with a wide rollout. I don't know that they should try to take down ChatGPT. They could. There are benefits to that, but do they really need the short-term stock boost, or would it serve them better to sort of hang some of these things out for future use? Kind of roll things out that are yesterday's news while they're taking advantage internally of the things that they're working on already. Awesome. Google's avoiding the general public, training their LLMs to be racist. Uh, I think everyone's learned that lesson. Thanks to Microsoft. Microsoft taught that lesson to everyone years ago. And hey, Mr. Hippo, how's it going? Uh, just just to let you know, one, I think you can already probably guess. This is not a gaming night. I do the gaming on weekends. Um, this is a tech podcast day, and yeah. Second thing, I'm actually pretty close to finished. So because man, my voice is starting to go. Uh, Plus, I'm actually nearly out of topics, so that kind of works out well. Hoopy, Gemini does feel a bit like that description. Slow rolling things while product ideas sort themselves out. Yeah, I mean, putting it that way. I mean, that's not too far from what I said, but it kind of narrows it, or it kind of focuses it a little bit better. Yeah, there is that aspect where I'm sure to some extent they have to introduce this stuff and then find a way, or they have to develop the core technology and then figure out what can we do with it that turns into a product that's going to be maintainable. Like, how much is it going to cost for us to run every single query through AI when people are using our product at scale? And you got to figure that's not an easy number to hit, because AI stuff is still expensive comparatively. And so how much are they gonna fund this for features that presumably a lot of people don't want to spend any money on? And even if they can get people to spend money, is it gonna be enough? Like, you don't ask people to pay. Like, you have to figure out a way to make it so your heaviest user is paying roughly, if they're paying at all. Your heaviest user has to be somebody you can make at least as much money off of as it costs to serve them. And then your lightweight users are your profit. And I think that's a hard thing to predict right now, because people who want to use AI abuse it. They've been, like, we've seen this with ChatGPT. There are people who built whole businesses off of just sitting there and typing a whole bunch of stuff into ChatGPT and returning the results effectively. And they use the absolute crazy daylights out of ChatGPT. Whereas we're not seeing that or we're not seeing Google rolling out its most powerful stuff yet in the open, because that's expensive. It costs too much to do that. Hoopy, which does tip into what I'm of the opinion of is one of Google's biggest AI trump cards over OpenAI, their custom tensor chips. Yes. Yeah, tensor is 100%. Like, I did say this a couple of years ago. Like, I don't think they were putting their tensor chips to much use initially, and even now I think they're probably still leaving a lot on the table with what those chips are supposed to be able to do. We definitely, I would argue that the Pixel 6 never got anywhere close to using the capabilities of the NPU. With the Pixel 7, they obviously got more use out of it, but not a lot. It seems like the Pixel 8 is where they're actually legitimately going to start using the hardware. And even now, it seems like they're not using it for very much. Well, we know they're not using it for very much. They'll get more out of it, but we'll see. You mean the, okay, well, I think it applies to both, though. You're talking about the tensor pods, the actual, like, original tensor, what they originally were calling tensor before they start putting something in pixels with the name tensor. Um, uh, they announced a new one today in the register link. Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't pull up the details. So that is this article. Um, TPU V5P pods to accelerate AI training. Jeez. Huh. Okay. Interesting. So, yeah, I'm sure that they're going to get a ton out of all of the stuff that they've been developing. That's one of the things. Like, their hardware has been in development for a decade. Probably longer, in fact. But we're seeing some of the simple things now that everybody else would normally be running on regular GPUs and other hardware. Google has been building purpose-built chips to help run this stuff. So, yeah, they're obviously building out the infrastructure to be able to do this more efficiently and more effectively than OpenAI or anybody else. That's going to be their advantage for obviously at least a few years to come, possibly a long, long time to come. I think other people are going to start copying a lot of this stuff, and probably, who knows, someone might leapfrog Google. But Google set itself up to be the winner in this fight. And you got to give them credit. They saw way, way into the future and said, let's start building hardware for this today. And software let's start researching and developing software that can be the groundwork for bigger things. So yeah, ChatGPT showed up and won everyone's attention, but Google was sitting in the background basically with an arsenal of really, really far more matured products than anybody else has, or at least we assume more than anyone else has. If Microsoft shows up in the next year and goes, oh yeah, by the way, we've been working on all this stuff for the last 15 years, and here's what we've actually got in the background. I don't think that's going to happen, but you can't say it won't. We just don't know. Let's see. Let's see. The only competition really is Apple. Yeah, we'll see. Because Apple is putting so little into AI. They hyped up or claim that they have an NPU in their latest chips, but where are they using it? By all accounts, they're using it for really simple stuff, and it's not clear that the NPU is actually that capable. So we'll see. You know, that's what gets me about this. Nobody even really knows how to benchmark the hardware yet, but by all accounts, NPUs are ranging anywhere, they're all over the board in terms of performance and in terms of what they're even capable of. Each one has different feature sets, so there's a lot of variability we just can't measure or define yet. And yeah, I actually managed to pick out that sentence when I was reading earlier, but yeah, each TPU V5P accelerator will run you $4.20 an hour. And as you point out, running the max 8960 Unity costs $37,000 an hour. Yeah, that's wild. That is a crazy number. Apple does make a lot of points that it's for developer use and only mention it for things like their new autocorrect. Yeah, and that's okay. Units, not Unity. All right. I was wondering what that meant, but I wasn't sure if that was a name or a typo. Anyway, um, but yeah, Apple Apple is trying. Well, I don't want to say they're trying to ride the train. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they did genuinely put the hardware in so developers could make some use of it, but I don't think they counted ahead very well. I don't think they really plotted what they needed to be able to do, and so that's possibly their weak point. Um, you've also heard the TPU in the MacBook Pro is way too small to run much more than a tiny TensorFlow library. Uh, that's interesting, actually. Okay, so I'm not going to say much. Well, I'm not going to say anything about it, but it's funny because there is actually coincidentally a project that I've wanted to work on for a long time. I've got some headway into it, but it's not nearly as far along as I want. But it occurred to me adding some AI capability to it. There is a very specific aspect of AI that I would actually kind of like to try my hand at. And the project very specifically would be like it is for Macs. And so, or well, for Mac OS. And it would be really interesting to actually try that. Maybe I'll take a look into it. And fortunately, the kind of thing that it would be doing, it would be okay if if it's really tiny. So it doesn't need a lot. It's a very simple project in that sense, but it would be interesting to actually dig in and see how much their included TPU is capable of. Possible Apple doesn't want to get too left behind, but doesn't really value the philosophy of LLMs. Well, I would agree with that, but some part of me thinks that I think they know that this is a thing they have to get into. I think that they haven't found yet the product. Because Apple's a product company. Google is a company that likes to hype up, here's the really cool technology that we're working on, and someday it'll turn into a product. Apple's the company that's like, okay, figure out a product and then let's design the technology to make this work. And if you happen to stumble onto some technology, figure out a product before going any further. And hello, Carson, how's it going? Man, you're showing up at the tail end as my voice is just, it's holding on by a thread. I'm sucking the water down pretty fast to compensate for how long I've been talking. Awesome. You've got a Google Coral dev board lying around. I will probably never get around to touching that, but that is interesting. I'd probably like to play with it, but I just know realistically I will never find time. Or at least never find time to do it well. Also, I'm not sure what I would use that for, but it'd be interesting. But let's see, what was I gonna say? Or what was there anything else to say? I think that actually just was kind of the end of what I had to say on the Google AI stuff. But kind of a closing thought on this. If Google is in that position where they're now kind of like legitimately calling out ChatGPT, and sort of like taking the fight to them, and we'll assume that they're leapfrogging. It's interesting. I'm curious to see what comes of this, and if it ends up doing the big magic that they think it will. One thing I think, just for laughs, let's see. one thing I think is worth pointing out is this news hit today, and I would argue it was pretty big news. But it did nothing for them in the stocks. It raised 0.1% for the day. Their stock value raised 0.1%. They went up a whole 20 cents. Yeah, they did not. Somehow, AI did not move the needle this day. This is public. Carson. It's public.com. I used to try to encourage I used to point to my affiliate link, which actually I need to take that out of the description. I mean, you can still use it if you want, but they now do a weird thing where people have to put a crap load of money in if you're going to get any sort of referral credit. And at the stage, I forget how much it is, but at the stage where I'd be asking people to do that, it's not worth it. Google Finance says it's down 0.74% today. Let's see. They do. They don't even agree on what the price is. Yeah, Google Finance, okay, so Public says 132. Google Finance says 130. That's interesting. I'd love to know why they don't agree on this. And no sign on Google Finance of having ever hit 132. That's really weird. Okay. I don't know what's up with that. Weird. Robinhood is showing... Okay, so Robinhood's showing basically the same as Public, which is doubly weird because if anything, those two should disagree. Because Public specifically does not operate on the same methods as Robinhood. Fidelity showing 130. Huh. Yeah. Buy Fidelity, transfer to Robinhood. That'd be hilarious. Regardless, whatever this actually is about, whatever the difference is, the point we'll set aside the actual price and just stick to the point of none of this was actually that good for Google's stock value. I mean, it kind of looks like it kind of looks like I don't know. So maybe aftermarket trading did a little bit better for Google, but I mean, we're seeing a rise either way. But for the day, like, this has not really been a good announcement. Like a few months ago, the commonly understood thing is if a company says AI somewhere in their keynote or an announcement, it is an automatic like, hey, we're gonna make tons of money. That didn't happen here. Google put out announcements about AI. The Verge, I mean, Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. I think there were a couple others, and I just didn't bother putting them in. The Verge covered this. AI was the center focus of The Verge's coverage today, and it was all about Google. With, of course, that one thing about Windows too. I'm just saying, at this stage, AI is not the sweetie of the stock market anymore, or at least it sure wasn't today. So I don't know if this is really gonna work for pump and dump moments where you can just like put out a press release saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do more AI stuff," and then just watches the stock go sky high. Like that just seems to be over, which is kind of a shame for Google, at least in this instance. And let's see, actually, let me get to my watch list from here. Okay, how about just Microsoft, considering their thing about Windows came out today. Not that anyone's following Windows Central as much, but here's another one. The two big AI announcements, or AI news items for the day. And yeah, Microsoft actually fell. Like, AI is not moving the needle like it used to. But speaking of not moving the needle like it used to, okay, bad transition, but we're taking it anyway. And this is final topic because I'm gonna have enough trouble getting through these last few comments here. And this is barely a topic. I just wanted to call this out. Multiple game developers are announcing more layoffs, including Codemasters. I forget what the full list was, or actually I forget most of the list, but apparently, yeah, Saber Interactive, Embracer Group, they've had a rough year. Let's see, New World Interactive, let's see, Tiny Build. All these companies are apparently looking to cut staff. And it's just, it's so weird because all the news has been the gaming industry is making more money than ever. The amount of money that is in the gaming industry just keeps going up. Even in years where you'd think it should have gone down, it keeps going up. Yet they can't seem to keep staff. They can't seem to keep paying for the staff that they have that built the games that are making so much money. And I mean, I know full well, as I think a lot of people do, that a lot of this is about boosting stock, or, you know, you get a bunch of people to build a game, and then you're like, all right, cool, well, so long, and thanks for hanging out. We're done with you now. Go away. I'm sure that's the explanation for some of these companies. Some of them maybe are doing not doing well enough after their game releases, and they're like, oh, hey, we need to cut staff because, so that we can survive. One example happens to kind of fit in here. As much as I like the Borderlands franchise, and I think a lot of people are big fans of it, Borderlands has, not always performed as well as they hoped. The pre-sequel famously was not the biggest winner. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands did okay, but I think it didn't move the needle as much as they hoped. So yeah, apparently Gearbox software is up for sale, or to some extent they're trying to get rid of it. We're seeing a lot of stuff happen, but it's weird how the gaming industry is supposedly doing such high numbers, but evidently a lot of companies just aren't able to reliably pay the rent if they keep their employees. I'm curious how this scenario goes. And also, at what point do some of the teams that get let go circle back and say, you know what? Screw you guys, we're just building our own game company. You can't fire us and then hire us back for less every 6 months. We're just going to build our own game company, and we'll do the same. We'll just build better games than you do, sell those, and we'll get rich that way. That's a thing that they're kind of begging to happen. And it's, we've literally actually seen Google and Microsoft suffer from this in the past, where they've cut chunks of staff. That staff then goes off, builds a company, and then they sell that. They usually end up selling that company back to Microsoft or Google or whomever, and making huge money off of being reacquired, and then they're right back to working for the same company again. It's weird how that happens. So, yeah. Anyway, I just felt like bringing this up and kind of calling attention to it, but wanting to again really raise that issue of sort of the cynical nature of this industry, where it's okay to just fire large chunks of people because you need to boost your stock price, or because you need to make it look like you can be profitable even during those off periods where maybe you haven't had a game release recently, but you obviously will. Yeah, there's something weird about this. Also, it has been too common of a story that everyone has to have layoffs this year. This year has had more layoffs in the tech industry than ever before, even during 2 different .com busts. Like, we're at that point where you can't justify layoffs at the level that companies keep doing it. Also, just gonna say it, stop firing people, start hiring people, because it is better for your bottom line when you have more products to sell, and when you have better, more evolved products. You're not going to have that if you have no staff, or if your staff is too minimal. Also, hire me. Someone. Do that. Just saying. Anyway, so with that as a final message, let's see. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. I had sort of read, but didn't. I was in the middle of switching gears when Hoopy made those last few comments. So, yeah, I do agree with what you said, though. They're more interested in just the name ChatGPT than specifically GPT-4. They're more interested in Bard than they are Gemini. Yeah. Carson, as far as video boost goes, I personally don't know. I was actually going to take one final look on my Pixel 8 before making a point of updating it. So, yeah, I don't actually know yet. But I'm probably going to do that tomorrow, I think. I'm guessing. We'll see. Oh boy. I turned on the screen for the Pixel 8 and all of a sudden it just reshuffled like all the notifications. Okay, so good, it seems to have stabilized. But yeah, I haven't seen anyone mention having it, which makes me think it probably is an app update that's just waiting to go through. At least that seems to be the best explanation for right now. I guess we'll find out. I have a feeling that'll pop up pretty quick as soon as it becomes available. Hoopy still doesn't even have the update for tablet. Got it though? Oh, that's interesting. At least it's not account based, because I swear at various times I've seen the account, like every device on your account suddenly gets an update if there's an update, and then And then, like, until that happens, though, none of the devices get it. I've seen that happen in the past. And, yeah, it sucks. You flash the OTA and it's laggy. I mean, to be fair, that could be just post-update, like, processing. You know, sort of updating and filling out various bits of data, updating app databases, and possibly, I mean, there's even a chance that it might be rebuilding the caching, the app cache mechanism. I'm totally blanking on what it's called, but the thing that basically figures out which parts of your app get run the most, and turning those parts native. It's been 5 hours. No, it's not Dalvik. Dalvik's the old thing that came before Art. But Art is the thing that makes this thing happen. I just can't think of what it's called. It's some sort of a caching system. I just can't think of what it is. It's some sort of like pre-compiled chunks of apps. It does a hybrid now where some stuff is pre-compiled, some stuff gets run basically as bytecode. Well, not run as, I mean, it all becomes native when it's running, but some parts get to be fully pre-compiled and optimized. But they don't want to waste a ton of space and constantly regenerate these things, so they're only doing partial sections for the hotspot in the app. Maybe it's the ahead of time cache. I swear it had a different name to it, but I don't know. I'm also tired. I might not be thinking of it right. Anyway, I'm going to tap out. So let's run through the classic. Huge thanks to Carson, Austin, Diablo, David, and Kirby for being supporters of the channel. Huge thanks. It keeps this channel going, and it is much welcomed. And to anyone else who would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And of course, as always, huge thanks to everyone for just coming by, hanging out, being part of the conversation in the chat room. Thanks to Corbin for being guesty on the channel. And let's see, as usual, this weekend should be gaming. You know, a little bit of Fall Guys, maybe some Overwatch. We'll see how it goes. And next week, more RambleCast. I don't know exactly what the plan is, but there may be a photo edit session, not this week, but early next week, I think, possibly. What was the Fall Guys update? I don't know what you mean. Fall Guys update. There's the new season pass, or well, Fame Pass they call it. The new Fame Pass is coming up in about a week. And that one's gonna have like the Christmas stuff in it. But other than that, I don't. If there was a Fall Guys update, maybe they were loading that stuff up. Actually, that would make the most sense. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Trying to think. Was there anything else? Yeah, I don't think so. Oh, and speaking of updates, Overwatch 2 just got an update. They're bringing in the new hero, Moga, whatever his name is. I remember him from the replay weekend about a month ago. It was not good. And watching him get played just a little bit this morning or last night, still not a fan. Terrible to try to heal. That is my assessment. He is horrible to try to heal. But anyway, it is what it is. So, Again, thank you all for coming by, and I will see you in the next one. And enjoy the rest of your week. Good night, everybody.